And I am going to get to what I promised, some strategies for protecting yourself from radiation poisoning and MSG. We'll cover those in the next segment. A couple more headlines here real quick. More Americans now commit suicide than are killed in car crashes as a miserable economy takes its toll. This is the story from Daily Mail from out of the UK. Suicide is the cause of more deaths than car crashes. And, of course, you always have to wonder, too, what's the link to the psychiatric drugs, the antidepressants that have suicidal thoughts and violent thoughts as one of their side effects. But clearly the economy has something to do with this as well. We see crime on the rise. Counterfeit gold, as Ted just talked about. We see that on the rise as well. UK hospitals are on the verge of collapse as socialized medicine fails. This is a Natural News article. And this just shows, hey, that socialized medicine system doesn't work long term. Patients aren't any healthier. It just gets more and more expensive until the drug companies loot the entire economy. And here's a story out of RT. Public health officials on alert after new virus detected. Well, this could just be a scare story from the World Health Organization. They say they're on alert after 2 confirmed cases of a new virus in the same family as SARS. So it's like SARS Part 2 coming back to haunt us over and over again, just like in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies. It's the WHO SARS Massacre sequel, Part 2, Part 3, Part 4. They're going to keep scaring us until we all go get vaccinated and decide to kill ourselves with GMO. That's the plan. All right, enough on that. We're going to take some phone calls. We've got Lars and Peter, John, Harry, Dave, all straight ahead. Thank you.
Alex Jones here with a very important announcement for truth seekers. We've carried a lot of amazing films and books over the years on the online video bookstore at Infowars.com. And out of all the titles we've carried, one stands out because it is just so chillingly convincing. And that's Dreams from My Real Father by Joel Gilbert, available at Infowars.com. This film exposes the fraud that Obama is like nothing I've seen. If you want to know who Obama's real daddy is, this is the film for you. Don't forget, your purchase supports our broadcast and our growing media network. You'll also find at InfoWarsShop.com, None Dare Call a Conspiracy by Gary Allen, the book that woke me up. We're also carrying Behind the Green Mask, UN Agenda 21 by Rosa Corey. This book is coffin nails to the globalist takeover. The Greater Good, the most professional and up-to-date film I've ever seen exposing the scourge that is vaccines. These titles and a lot more are all available at InfoWarsShop.com.
Mike Adams, the health ranger, filling in for Alex today. Hey, it's good to be back. I've been on kind of a, well, it was supposed to be a break. I was supposed to do some fasting, and that didn't happen. I ended up working on all these other projects, which will be launching soon. But anyway, it's great to be back. Thank you thanks to Alex for having me on, and thank you, the listeners, for supporting me with all your positive comments. I do enjoy bringing you this news and bringing you some interesting perspective. But let's get to something even more interesting now. Let's take some calls. Do we dare? I love taking calls because the callers are so well informed, and also you never know what you're going to get. So let's do that right now. We've got Lars in Denmark on the line with us. Lars, you're live on the air. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, thank you, Adam. I just want to make a quick comment before I have a question about Tangy Tangerine. The comment is that, here in Denmark, of course, Infowars is not as big as it is in the States, but I just started a new job a few weeks ago, and out of 4 guys working there, one of them was also a regular listener.
Great.
And that was quite awesome to find out that, even in a small country like Denmark with, 5.5 million people, there was quite a few people who listen, so.
Well, it's a global reach, and it's getting bigger every single day. Do you have another question, Lars?
That's exactly right, yeah. I have a question about, because we tried some Tangy Tangerine from Youngevity.
Yes.
And a family member had a problem after having a gallbladder removed, which we probably shouldn't have done, but now it's out, so we can't do anything about it. But this Tangy Tangerine actually helped. I took some, and I felt a lot of energy, and my 70-year-old mother started skipping her new naps. She felt a lot of energy too. And we used it all up and ordered another one. And it got caught in the customs department. Because,
of course.
They wanted to check it. You know, you can make your own decisions here in Denmark, of course.
Right.
So they stopped it because of this glucosamine, which is apparently allowed in Europe. You can take it, of course. They, they admit it's good for you, but if you import it from the States, then you can't.
Well, Lars, the bottom line is that the European Union, especially, is so strict on restricting your right to nutritional supplements. It is a tragedy of health, and some of the countries you can't even get vitamin C shipped into the country without it getting seized, and then you have to pay big fines or just you lose it. It gets confiscated. But thank you for your call, Lars. And also, I do want to mention for those who have their gallbladders removed, remember, doctors typically don't tell you that the gallbladder has a role in your digestion. Specifically, if you eat dietary fats and you have your gallbladder removed, then you're not going to be able to digest those fats as easily. You need to supplement with some enzymes that can help digest fats. That's part of the role of the gallbladder. Hey, you can't just take organs out of the body and not think something's going to happen, right? So do your homework, get informed. If a doctor wants to remove something from your body, like your gallbladder or a kidney or something, learn what that does, huh? Kind of a good idea. So thank you for your call, though. Good information. Let's go to Peter in Washington. Peter, you're on the air. Go ahead, sir. What's your comment or question?
A few days ago, or last week, I think it was, you had a report with the man from eFoods on the food crisis, and I just wanted to update it. In 1966, Western Islands, which was the publishing arm of the John Birch Society at that time, published a book called Ill Fares the Land, The Famine Planned for America by Dan P. Van Gorder. Now, that's almost 50 years ago. And at that time, it was started with the Agricultural Adjustment Act of 1933. They didn't get too far. Basically, what they did was they falsely reported that we were having surpluses. And they did that because the production was going up then, but it was dropping on a per capita basis, and they were importing more and more food. And then they fiddled a little bit with the statistics.
So you're saying that this has been an ongoing agenda for decades then?
And the interesting thing is the agricultural department was run by Henry Wallace Jr., who was a communist and ran against Truman in 1948, claiming that the problem is not the communists, but the communist issue. Now, in the Department of Agriculture...
Hey, Peter, we got to go to break, but I appreciate your call. That's a really good point. Sorry to cut you off there. We got to take a hard break here, but we'll be right back. Stay with us. More calls and more information straight ahead on The Alex Jones Show. This is Mike Adams. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Do you understand how dark it is? How far down the line we are? How late it is?
Let me share this with you before we continue with calls. I promised to give you some information about how to protect yourself from MSG, monosodium glutamate. Now, MSG is an excitotoxin. That's how Dr. Russell Blaylock describes it. He's a neurosurgeon who's an expert in this area. In fact, he's been a guest on this show many times. MSG is found in all kinds of foods, and they hide it using other ingredients, such as yeast extract. So remember that ingredient, okay? Yeast extract. That contains up to about 14% free glutamate, which is a taste enhancer, a chemical taste enhancer. Now, there's a new study, and this study is fascinating in that it offers a possible solution to protecting yourself from MSG. And I think, let's see, it's called Combined Treatment with Capsicum and Resveratrol Enhances Neuroprotection Against Glutamate-Induced Toxicity in Mouse Cerebral Cortical Neurons. In layman's terms, what it means is that they tested glutamate toxicity on the neurons, the brains of mice, and they found that these two substances offer some protection. This is good news, and this is breaking right here on the Alex Jones Show. I'm not aware of anybody else who has covered this, but it means that you can take resveratrol which has been called a miracle molecule by scientists, and that resveratrol holds real promise for protecting you from the toxic effects of MSG. It's kind of a defensive shield. Now, this hasn't been tested on humans to see if it reduces neurotoxicity of MSG, so some of this is just conjecture, but it has real promise there, and resveratrol has so many benefits for heart health and longevity that I would recommend resveratrol anyway. And that, of course, resveratrol is the molecule that's often famously found in red wine. It's in grapes, especially organic grapes, because this molecule, resveratrol, is produced by the grape plant in response to a fungal infection. So you got to go for organic grapes, you get high resveratrol, and it may protect you from the toxic effects of MSG. And capsicum may also protect you, although that one, you know, that's a hot pepper, so intuitively it would seem like that would make the problem worse. But in fact, the study showed it had a neuroprotective effect. That's very interesting science. Now, in addition to that, I promised to share some thoughts with you on protection from radiation. This is a big deal because of Fukushima, but not just that. We've got the possible future radiation problems. What if nuke power plants across the USA go into meltdown? What if there's a high-altitude EMP weapon detonated over America, for example, takes out the power grid, and it wouldn't be long before some nuclear power facilities start to go into meltdown like they did in Fukushima. What are you going to do then? Well, here are some foods that can help protect you from radiation. And I really want to encourage you to eat these on a regular basis. They're also really healthy for other reasons. Miso is a traditional Japanese food, a soup base. It offers protection from radiation. Probiotics are also very good. Chlorella is a superfood, a microalgae, chlorella. Iodine, of course, as you know, offers protection to the thyroid, which is why the government even recommends potassium iodide pills for protection from radiation poisoning. But you can find iodine in seaweed. So if you can work some seaweed into your diet, now, me being a guy from the Midwest, I think that sounds crazy. How am I going to work seaweed into my diet? Well, sushi is the easiest way. The nori sheets that the sushi is rolled in, they actually help protect you from radiation poisoning, believe it or not. And also there are internal clays. So some clay that's actually used for detox. You actually ingest the clay, and clay absorbs a lot of toxic elements, not just radiological, but also chemical, and can help clean those out of your body. But always, when you ingest something like clay, please do it under the supervision of a naturopathic physician. Don't just go winging it on this stuff. Get some good information. Hey, read natural health websites and get informed so you know what you're doing. But anyway, those are the protections against radiation and MSG. Now, let's go to the calls, and I hope we have a caller who's going to call about this New York City schools giving out morning after pills to young students without telling their parents. Really? Hope we have a caller on that. John from Washington. John, you're on the air. What's on your mind, man?
Well, what's on my mind is Monsanto, gummy worms, and hogs.
There you go. Sounds like a great buffet.
I want to tell you that I'm a retired ornamental horticulturalist of 21 years, and in some of my renewal classes or continuing ongoing education, we took herbicide and pesticide courses, and I know you'll be really surprised about this, but they had these little junior VPs from Monsanto that actually taught the class.
Wow.
And the guy came up there, and it was his practice. He was well known for this, that at the beginning of every year with the new class, he would take a bottle of Roundup, pop the cap on it, pull the metal seal off to prove that it was, hadn't been tampered with, and pour a 1 ounce shot glass full and throw it back and drink it. And this was done to as an example to us as to how safe it was. He taught us how safe it was.
No,
and this is basically
he
the
couldn't
way
be
they taught
drinking
the classes
Roundup
back then. And as a result, years later, at the age of 46, I found out that I had atrazine, malathion, and a number of other chemicals in my bone marrow, and spent 2 years trying to get that flushed out and fixed up.
Wow.
So this was the misinformation and disinformation campaign that Monsanto has been foisting on people for all this time.
Well, that's incredible that they infiltrated the education process. I wonder what happened to that guy that was claiming to be chugging shot glasses of Roundup. Any word?
See him today. I would love to see him today.
He's probably dead.
But I had so many problems approaching the time when I retired because, and now I've got everything from skin problems with my nails. I lost my right eye, and this was all from chemical poisoning. The second thing I want to talk about was that I noticed that you mentioned that deal about feeding the gummy worms to the cattle and such, but there might be a slightly different perspective on that that you might consider. And I have a friend that's in Indiana. Spoke with him, a couple weeks ago, and he said that 70% of the corn crop has failed out in the Midwest and in the corn production areas.
That's right.
And that the 30% that's left over is got a government mandate. They're using it to make ethanol. Well, the cost of corn is so expensive now that using ethanol, which was supposed to lower the cost of gas, is actually making the cost of gas go up because they're using that 30% of the corn that they do have to make ethanol.
Now, wait a minute. So we're putting our food in our gas tanks, and then we're feeding our cows candy, and then we're injecting little girls with birth control in school, and we're all eating poison GMOs, and this is all called normal? Wow.
Oh, yeah. Well, what he told me was that guys are going from Indiana up into the northeast area where they have all the Oreo factories and the candy manufacturers and so forth. I guess they're concentrated up there. At any rate, he said that they don't. It's not that they want to feed this crap to their cows and their pigs. The fact is they don't have anything to feed to them.
Yeah, I get that.
They're going up there and getting tractor-trailer truckloads of Oreo crumbs, like you said, gummy bears, cereals, floor sweepings, the stuff they clean out of the equipment that they make these products with, and bringing that back to feed to the animals, not necessarily to fatten them faster, but just to keep them alive to start with so they don't lose their stock, and because it's got so much corn syrup in it that he says that they're getting at least a small fraction of the nutrition out of the corn, which I argued with him about it.
Right,
the point is well taken.
But wow, well that's great information, John. Thanks for sharing that with us. Thanks for your call. I mean, hey, I guess in another month the ranchers, and by the way, I feel for the ranchers. We went through a bad situation here in Central Texas last summer with the fires and the drought here, and ranchers were in a tough situation. But maybe in the Midwest they can take their cows trick-or-treating and just eat up all the candy that are given out by the households. It might take a while to unwrap all those little gummy bear packages, though, wouldn't it? It's just insane, man. It's insane. We're feeding the cows this food with artificial color in it, this candy. It's not, you almost can't call it food. But good points, John. I'm really glad you shared all that with us. Let's go to another caller, Harry in Pennsylvania. Harry, you're on the air. Go ahead, sir. What's on your mind?
Hi, I'd like to know if canola oil is a GE type of food, and should we avoid it? Most
canola oil is genetically engineered, yes, but not all. And hence the need for labeling. Wouldn't you like to know the difference if you're at the store and you're buying canola oil? Wouldn't you like it to say either no GMOs or yes, it contains GMOs so you can make a decision? But yeah, a lot of canola is genetically engineered, and it's used throughout most salad dressings that you buy at the grocery store, another form of hidden food ingredients that you don't know what they are. And of course, canola oil used to be called rapeseed oil before they changed the name for marketing reasons. What do you think about that?
Well, Mike, you're right. In fact, I found out also that even if something says sugar, you have to call and ask them if it is 100% cane sugar or also contains
beet sugar.
Beet sugar. And if it contains beet sugar, are the beets GMOs?
That's
so you
right.
can't even be safe by it saying sugar.
You are exactly right, sir. Good point. You're educated, man. I love it. The GMO beets were planted for quite some time. I don't think they're allowed to plant them this year. We should check with Jeffrey Smith on that fact checking. But they're definitely pushing for GMO sugar beets to be allowed again. and they want everything to be GMO. That's what they want. Everything GMO. So thank you for your call. Very good points there, Harry. All right, let's go to Pat in California. Pat, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. I want to make 2 quick points. In regards to GMO, I want people to remember, if they remember the situation with the bee populations dying off, they found out 10 years ago in France, the farmers did tests on certain pesticides, and they realized that the bees were dying off when they were exposed to these pesticides. Well, it's interesting because it was even in the New York Times, March of this year. I asked people to look. I was surprised it was in the New York Times because they're so corporatist. But it says 2 studies point to common pesticides as a culprit in declining bee colonies.
Yeah.
And I want to tie that to GMOs because it's the same thing. You know how for years they always told us, yeah, pesticides are fine, they're safe, don't worry about it. And, you know, and we know without bees, our plants, nothing will grow.
That's right.
I mean, that's when we have to realize how devastating this is. But the pesticide industry keeps pumping money into our politicians.
Well, you're right, Pat. The common thread here is that we're always lied to by these so-called corporate scientists. They lie about pesticides. They lied about DDT. They lied about big tobacco. And by the way, the really toxic stuff in the cigarettes is not the tobacco. It's all the chemical additives that they put in there. Just smoking actual tobacco isn't nearly as bad for you as all the other things. But they lied to us about all that science over the years. And you're right. You're right to ask, Pat, are they lying to us again about GMO? We think they are. Are they lying to us about pesticides? Are they putting at risk the entire human race? Because as you hinted there, if the pollinators are destroyed, then we're history. About 1/3 of all our food is pollinated by honeybees. If they don't make it, we don't make it. It's a big deal.
Alex Jones here with a message that could revolutionize health in this country. Going back about 1.5 years ago, I began to learn about the incredible health effects of Youngevity products. Aaron Dykes lost 92 pounds. We're going to show you some before and afters. Aaron, break down what happened, your story.
I've worked really hard with diet and exercise to try to lose weight, but I just didn't get the results. It just didn't happen. Then I saw what you were doing with InfoWarsTeam.com. I wasn't even trying to lose weight, but I got it because I wanted to feel better energy. I wanted that nutrition. Didn't even understand how that could kickstart my own weight loss goals, but the products did that for me. I found myself suddenly losing weight, more energetic, wanting to exercise, wanting to eat the right foods.
And they don't even advertise it as weight loss. I want to challenge our radio listeners to go to InfoWarsTeam.com, sign up as a distributor, and get wholesale pricing discounts at InfoWarsTeam.com.
Our callers are so informed here. The listeners to the Alex Jones Show are just really the most informed listeners on all subjects. I mean, you know, the economy, politics, and now health and GMOs more and more. I'm so happy that Alex has been covering that in the last couple of years at an increased pace. I remember, I guess about 4 years ago or so, Alex wasn't really covering that much in the realm of health. But he's really covered more and more of it, and aspartame and the genetic engineering of how aspartame is created. It's exciting because, as I've said on this show, we got to support nutrition for patriots, folks. We who believe in the Constitution, who believe in this republic, who believe in the American people and the ingenuity and the innovation that made us a great nation and can restore this great nation, we've got to be healthy. You know, I'm famous for showing this jar. I always have a jar of superfoods here every time because this is what I eat and drink every day. This one is avocado with a bunch of superfoods in it. My own little cacao, that's chocolate for you, recipe, chocolate, avocado, you name it. It's food-based. Like that caller just asked, should you take vitamins or should you get your nutrition from food? Well, for me, it's both. I get a lot of my nutrition from food, and then I supplement for trace minerals and all these other things. So it's a combination, but grow as much food as you can. Let's continue with some more callers. Chris from Kentucky. Chris, you're on the air on the Alex Jones Show. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, Mike. Thanks for having me on.
You bet.
I was wondering if you might speak to how exactly the environmental movement, namely the production of ethanol corn or the switchover from food corn to energy corn, has basically proliferated and accelerated the cause of the GMO foods in ways of...
Great question. No, I get it, man. Great question. Great question. I am absolutely incensed at the environmental movement for not speaking out more against GMO. The environmental movement has been hijacked by globalists. You know that. They're not really pro-environment. What they're all about is not really addressing the real threats to the environment, because I'm an environmentalist in a legitimate way. I don't want the environment to be polluted with genetic pollution through GMOs. All right, I don't want mercury in the environment from dentistry. You know how many tons of mercury are tossed down the drain at dental offices, or even when people die and they're cremated, how much mercury goes into the air because of their mercury fillings? I mean, those are real environmental issues. The loss of soils, the use of Roundup that sterilizes the soils, the loss of probiotics in the soils. These are real environmental issues, but the environmental, I should say the traditional, or let's say the status quo environmental movement does not address these things. Where is the denouncement of GMOs in the environmental movement? I got to say right here on the air, on the record, until the environmental movement denounces GMOs, you're a fraud, okay? You're not for the environment unless you speak out against GMOs. GMOs are the greatest threat to our environment. It is a self-replicating pollution. That's worse than chemical pollution. That's worse than the oil spill in the Gulf. It is worse because it self-replicates. You want to be a real environmentalist? Get a line against GMOs. That's save the planet for human life. And, oh, man.
Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.